that's good to know. So data thinking, that ensures that we are not driven by technology and data, but are actually driven by the problems that we are facing usually in project management. And now there's, at least I see it this way, and I observe it this way, that there's a risk that we are going too fast towards the whole AI topic, and it's obviously all exciting, right, with generative AI and tools like this, right? But then there's a risk that we get too driven by what it actually is capable of, and then we basically address or change in the project management space the way it's actually mandated, kind of, right, by AI tools. So instead of actually being driven by AI tools or data, we should be driven by the problems we're facing so we can address those, right? And oftentimes we address problems in projects with AI tools that may be problems, but not really the key elements of, or the key issues that we are facing in project management. So that's also something that I'm going to talk about a little bit. So the focus should be really on the problems as the starting point, and that's where data thinking comes in. I'm explaining that concept in more detail. So in terms of the agenda for today, and apologies again that starting a little bit late here, but I will try to catch up a little bit on time so we get through this presentation and you get everything that I want to bring to you. So first, changing conditions for project managers. So what changed exactly, right? I mentioned data literacy, and the thing is that we are all data literate, right? I mean, data is nothing new to us, right? We are working with data for ages already, right? I mean, we work with all these different artifacts like project plans, etc. We collect requirements. I mean, this is all data, right? And then there's obviously much more, right? We create dashboards, we create presentations. We work with data all day long, right? And not only in project management, but also in our daily lives, everywhere we are confronted with data. So it's not to say that, okay, we have to become data literate. We are already data literate. We just need to level up, right? We need to lift our data literacy skills and align it basically to today's realities. And then eventually with those skills, or these aligned data literacy skills, so to say, right? We can then really make the most out of AI and do not really get stuck in what we usually refer to as AI hype, right? So I will talk about this a little bit as well. And then eventually, data thinking is an important concept, which is next to the whole topic of data and AI literacy, is, as I mentioned earlier, it's more like to focus on problems, real problems, and leverage our knowledge and skills, our understanding of data, AI, etc., and our whole common sense, right, and our project management knowledge to address really the most burning issues. And then last but not least, I give a few ideas, how to take it from here, so you can maybe apply it even in your own project management practice. So before, and I want to make it quick here, as I said, I want to catch up a little bit in terms of time. I mean, you heard a little bit already what I'm doing. So I'm based in Switzerland, and I am a project manager. I worked for almost 15 years in project management in large banks, so financial services. And I worked in very data-driven environments, so compliance areas specifically. And that's where I came in touch with all these topics about data management, data quality, data analytics in the end, as well as AI. And that really kind of drove me towards this whole topic about how can we leverage this for the project management space. I have seen those areas where data is a real true asset and is treated this way. And then AI, obviously, when it comes in and uses this, is well-managed data, you can get a lot of value back, right? And that's where I thought, why aren't we doing this in project management as well? And again, right, I feel like we have to catch up a little bit on this data diligence piece. I'm not worried really about AI, but I'm worried about that we are not really exploring the whole landscape of AI. It can do much more, but obviously it also relies on data. So where we want to get to is kind of, I mean, this is a kind of the analogies that I usually take, right? Where we were before, we navigate with old manual maps, right? Which is obviously very error prone. And we want to lift our intelligence, make everything more accurate and less error prone. I mean, there will be nothing free of, I mean, it will never be 100%, right? I mean, but we definitely can lift our intelligence in project management as we know with AI and data analytics and so forth. But in the end, at least I'm doing this, right? Whenever I use my navigation system in the car, I'm not blindly trusting it. Obviously, also looking left and right and see if it's right. So I'm validating what it's providing to me. There's obviously a certain level of trust after a while, but we still validate. And we all are familiar with this already, right? With ChatGPT, that we cannot just leave things unvalidated. But in the end, it lifts obviously quite a bit our intelligence. So this is eventually the goal, but again, right? It's more than just AI. It's more than just technology. We need to have this whole data ecosystem built up, and that's where it requires data literacy and data thinking, as well as data leadership in the end. So let me get through the first topic or the first agenda point, the changing conditions. So what exactly changed? I think that shouldn't be really surprising. I think we're all familiar with this, right? That data obviously is exponentially increasing, and this whole evolution of technology, and right now we are working with AI, this went very, very fast. And this, of course, has some impact on project management in the sense that projects are required to get delivered much faster than before. I mean, we cannot for example, like 10 years, you had the projects, you delivered that, let's say, I don't know, in 6 months, right? If you take the same project today, nobody will let you do that in 6 months. You need to make it much, much faster, way faster, much cheaper, and probably much better, right? At better quality. So everything changed. And that also means that everything became faster, that our decision making needs to be much faster. So we have less time to make decisions, while we have more actually to process, more data, more information, right? So there's this gap. And of course, right, the first thing that we are thinking then, oh yeah, AI can do a lot of stuff for us, right, to build this efficiency so we become faster, which is true, right? So of course, the current focus is heavily on AI, mainly generative AI tools, and that would address, that part of decision making, alias assisting us with decisions and to make them faster in a way, right? But we cannot forget what comes before that part and what comes after. What I mean by this is, we all know that AI relies on data, right? So first we have to make sure that data is in a state that it is of good quality, that it's actually not only quality in a sense like, okay, the formatting is right and it's available, right? It's readable, etc. This kind of things. But it's also, it mirrors the reality. It's truthful, it's transparent. It tells exactly what's happening in projects. In project management, we rarely find this. You may find some, milestone data, etc., what PMOs are usually tracking, right? But you rarely find a full picture of a project, which tells you exactly what happened day in, day out, including all the mistakes that people make and so forth, right? That's one thing. Then afterwards, now let's say we have good data, then you have to feed it into AI, and AI makes sense out of this and gives you something back, some recommendations, right? how to what next steps to take, right? Let's say you want to know a work breakdown structure for your project, right? Then we have to have the capability or the skills to interpret that data. As I said before, we have to validate this, right? Is that correct? Where is this all information all coming from? How is actually ChatGPT coming up with all that stuff? Where is it getting this, right, from? And we know it's not 100%. And so we have to validate this. But then also, what conclusions are we making out of this, what we're getting there? So all these things require data literacy. And then on top of it, right, we need to know if AI is actually the real option for this, right? Is that really the solution? Is that really suitable to assist with certain decisions, or would it rather misguide us, right? Sometimes you don't even should use AI, but rather really common sense, or maybe just a brainstorming session or whatever, right? Something that's not even related to technology, right? Or AI. And that requires AI literacy for you to actually say, okay, that's where Gen AI can help me with. That's where another type of AI can help me with, or that's where AI cannot help me with, or that's where you just do the whole thing more plain data analytics, so to say. So there are different aspects which tell us that data and AI literacy is really crucial and critical to reach that expected value of AI as well. So Gen AI especially, right, actually, and I say it again, right, it's not really fully trustworthy. We always have to validate this, right? Mainly because the data that's being used, right, to fuel those models, right, they may not be adequately accurate, right? And this is exactly why, and we see this here from Gartner, right? They say by 2027, right? More than half of chief data and analytics officers, they will actually invest heavily in data literacy and AI literacy programs, because they will see that there's a failure, right, which is on the horizon. And that's from generative AI. They need to actually make sure that we get the proper value from those models by actually raising the AI and data literacy. What is data literacy? I'm sure most of you, if not all, have heard about this, or have heard this term at least already, right? So in a very basic sense, it's to read data, write data, communicate with data in context. And I think that's the most important element, right? In context means here in the project management domain, of course, right? That's the first layer of context. But then depending on what kind of problem you're trying to solve, then this is obviously the context that you have to provide there, and then narrow this basically down and that you get the proper data sources and make sense of data in the end. So you eventually, you can say you're engaging with data in a contextual way, right? And that's what data literacy is all about. And again, right, it includes AI literacy, because this obviously, this whole topic of data, AI relies on this or depends on this. So I have created a model, and that's how I see this whole topic of data literacy and data thinking, which is obviously the title of this presentation here. Data leadership, we'll talk not so much about this, but just briefly, there are three pillars, I would say, that really make up this whole data-driven project management. Although I should not even label this as data-driven, but rather data-informed. But I tell you this in a moment why that is. But data literacy is just one part to enable this project data ecosystem, and I think we require those three cornerstones or pillars, right? So data leadership is one, which basically is to provide the proper environment and the conditions that facilitate, so to say, data and AI in projects, so it can actually play out all its strengths, right? So that is infrastructure for technology, data governance, strategy, etc., and also like fostering these kind of environments where data and information is being shared, people are collaborating. So we build up a data culture, right? Then data and AI literacy is really to make sense of data, work with data, understand AI as well, right? And communicate in the end insight. So what's the output is from processing data or taking insights from AI. You mix this all together, right, with your intuition and the insights that come from your experience, right? And then you communicate those insights to stakeholders to take action, right? Make decisions. And data thinking in the end is, and that's where I come down to the term here, data-driven project management. It should be data-informed project management, because you should actually avoid being data-driven. Because we're not driven by data. We should be actually focused on the problem, right? And then we use the data and AI literacy skills to find a proper solution. So it does not have to be digital data or technological stuff, right? Like AI, right? Not necessarily, it can be, but we have to actually have a broad horizon where we really see, okay, that's the problem that we want to solve. And this is where my common sense or my experience or my emotional intelligence is useful. And here's AI and here's data, etc. And here's AI, this particular model can help me with, right? So this is kind of the things which I think make up to build up a proper data ecosystem, which enables the real true effectiveness of AI in project management. So when we talk about AI effectiveness, then as I said earlier, right, there's more than generative AI, obviously, right? We are currently in this AI hype. We should make sure that we're getting over this and make sure that we have more on the, or not getting stuck in this whole hype of generative AI, but we're actually, widen our horizon and then not getting driven by whatever Gen AI has to offer. For example, there are a lot of tools that say, we can actually summarize your meeting. Probably it's running right now, right? Where it just puts a summary and put some minutes afterwards out, right? Great stuff, useful, right? And it solves some efficiency issues that we potentially have, right? But are we focusing on the real problems? What are our real problems? And we need some help with certain other elements, some issues that we're having. And so we need to actually put this as a priority and then see what AI has to offer for those problems. So in terms of AI hype, right, you may be familiar with this. The hype cycle from Gartner applies to any new technology or emerging technology. When the technology gets triggered or it comes down on the market, then the first thing is we are all like, wow, what cool stuff, right? And then we get some inflated expectation and think it can do anything, right? So with generative AI, you may get like, oh, this can do all my stuff here, all my meeting notes and all this kind of stuff, right? And it gives me fantastic answers in ChatGPT. So maybe it can even, I don't know, wash my laundry and does all kinds of other stuff, right? I'm obviously exaggerating here, right? But I think you see the point, right? That you cannot throw this at anything in project management. Come back right now on the project management topic. It's useful for all kinds of stuff. I mean, generative AI, but not for everything, right? And then when we realize this, it will actually go that path to that trough of disillusionment, and then we will hopefully get more all like in this whole data AI literacy topic, right? And get kind of enlightened and see that the broader picture and make really full use of AI. So not only this narrow use of generative AI, but actually the broader use of it, right? Because again, right, nothing really new, I suppose, right? AI is not perfect. It's not 100%. It can do fantastic stuff, but in other areas, it's completely poor, right? Completely weak, as it says here, right? From Jan LeCun from Meta. And that actually also struck me when, and you may have come across this from PMI, the most recent survey results from PMI just came, I think, last week, how generative AI is being used, right? And if you look at this, I mean, and that's generative AI across different project management tasks. So you see, there's no surprise in some areas, right? Like data analysis, of course, right? Communication, well expected, reporting, of course, right? All these kind of things where it is just excellent, right? To use tools like ChatGPT. But then it struck me like, what is this, right? Planning and risk identification and management, right? I mean, I got really stunned there because, of course, we can use it in a way. If you think, for example, okay, I have a project XYZ, and this is this type of project, and then I collect some data from past projects, and then it tells me how to plan that project. That is very linear, very basically just a copy paste exercise almost, right? It gives you maybe some hints on how to put a work breakdown structure together, but it completely leaves out the whole topic of uncertainty, because we know that every project is unique. There's a lot of uncertainty in projects, and this kind of areas like planning and risk identification and management requires predictive capabilities. Generative AI is very, very poor at prediction, right, or predictive capabilities. There's something called predictive AI, which is way more suitable for this. And this tells me kind of that there's some misunderstanding of where it is useful, where it's not, right? I mean, generative AI tools. And that's where it's missing some sort of AI literacy, right? Where we should not just throw it at anything because it is great at reporting or communication and chatbots, etc., and data analysis. It doesn't mean automatically that it can do everything else. So we have to be careful there. So I mentioned we should focus on the real problems in projects, and that's exactly what I just mentioned, right? The real problems, in my view, that we have in project management for ages, and that's why we have so high failure rates, is that we have this kind of planning fallacy, which is called. So we are really bad at estimating tasks, right, or risks as well, which means we completely have like task estimates which are completely off, right? And then we're underestimating the whole project, and we delay or we overrun cost targets and so forth, right? And this, you cannot solve this properly with Gen AI because it doesn't have that predictive capability. So you need way more like statistical models included there and this kind of things, right? So there are other models more suitable. So it needs predictive capabilities, and it also means to quantify better the uncertainty area. So risks and uncertainty, these are the topics that are really relevant for project management, obviously, and those areas like noun nouns, noun unknowns, those are risks, right? Which means they are known to us. We know that they exist. Not always we can really quantify them, but we have them on the radar. Uncertainty, like the unknowns, they are practically not existent for us. We don't know them. We're not aware of them. The problem is that a lot of times there's actually data available, there's information available, which makes them basically risks and not uncertainties. Only that we're not having access to such data most of the time. So data literacy can help with this as well, right? To make sure that we get some idea about, where to look for, what data to look for, what are the data sources, etc. That we also ensure that there's accurate data, which obviously improves this whole concept here, also for AI models. That we ensure that the data sources are available to everyone, not only to a portion of a project management department or an organization, but actually to the wider organization and projects and project teams. And we also ensure that the data is correctly interpreted, that we make proper sense out of this. And we ensure that we use the right AI models. Again, predictive AI, for example, would be a more suitable model for or tool for risk prediction or assessment of risks, or forecasting projects or planning projects, these kind of things. So this is so much about data and AI literacy and why it's important, right? But then, we have to take the next step. We actually have to make sure that we address those problems that I just mentioned, that I think that are, generally speaking, really the burning issues. And we really have to make sure that we prioritize them. So how do we make sure that we not fall into this trap, that we are driven by Gen AI tools and all what it can do, but it's not really addressing our most burning issues. So the real problems that we have on the table, they're still there. We may become more efficient, but maybe not really effective, because we are not really addressing our core issues. So that's where data thinking comes in, where it's really an approach which comes from the data science area, which essentially says like impact first, data second. What that means really is, before you even look at data, before you even open your AI tool, before you even think AI, right? Think about your problem. What is the real core problem that you try to solve? So we design this whole thing around the needs, and then we iterate this to improve this. So again, this is a topic that is coming from the data science area, because they saw this similar issue, right? I'm obviously mapping this more to our context here of project management and non-data scientist world, right? But the concept basically is, we have data scientists on one side, and we have this design thinking concept on the other hand. And in the middle, you have data thinking, which means we're really combining or kind of humanizing this whole data science way, because then data science is more like as it says, right, the scientific area, but then we merge this kind of with the business domains and what their problems are. So what are the real business problems? So let me explain the process, right? And I take here into account project management. So the first thing is, before we look at any data, anything, we have to identify the problem. So I have an example here from a software development project. So we have a problem. The software project deliverables, they have a high number of defects compared to, I don't know, a previous year, for example, right? So we identify this. We could go out there and check on data and AI, etc., right? But the first thing to do is obviously to understand what is the real problem here, right? Is this the problem, or is it just a symptom? So we have to ask a series of questions where this whole thing is coming from. We have to engage several people, right? Other people, right? Like business analysts, project managers, developers, QAs, right? And what their point of view is on this kind of problem, and how they actually their angle practically, and cover this with several questions. So in the end, and I'm obviously taking a little bit, skip a little bit this whole process here, and conscious of time, we may come to the whole conclusion that it's not that there is a quality problem, or that with quality management or anything of that sort, right? This may be just a symptom, no? So there may be just some observable issues or inefficiencies, but the root cause maybe somewhere else, right? So we have to come up with a proper problem statement. So one example could be like, if projects frequently they miss their deadlines. Now the root cause could be like an inaccurate task estimation, right? That's the root cause why we're actually missing deadlines, right? And in this particular example here, so software project deliverables with low quality, there could be the core problem could be that, okay, we actually have an issue with adopting a new delivery process, right? Maybe there was something you introduced. No, maybe we switched to agile or anything of that sort, right? And there's some adoption issue, right? So it has less to do with actually a quality issue itself, but rather with an adoption problem. So the whole thing is first get the problem clear before you go to the next step, right? And the next step is really to ask specific questions around this, right? So you determine what the nature of the problem is, and this eventually will tell you what to look for, what the data collection approach should look like. Should we even collect data like really digital data, like artifacts somewhere, right? Or is this more something that is rooted in culture and behaviors, or you have to resolve it with some brainstorming sessions? What this is, how that is being determined is it more a qualitative related question or more quantitative? So to give you some examples, right? For example, more qualitative and what more unknown, start with what more unknown is, could be how would look a market shift in the future? How is the team, will the team actually work together properly, right? Or will we lose our key resources during the project? Or will there be some new disruptors, right? Or will, for construction projects, for example, will there be rain, right? In, I don't know, 3 months from now, right? I mean, it's impossible for us to know. It's unknown, right? And we have to have more some, either on the quantitative side, more some exploratory data analysis, right? So for example, some statistical models, right? Or exploratory, just like, look for certain data points, right? Or it's more like a more qualitative question, like culture and behaviors, for example, team bonding, stakeholder engagement, that has obviously to do with where you have to build like a team or team building, right, and forming teams, etc., which is obviously somewhere else rooted than in plain data or quantitative elements. Then the other things on the other side, the noun, or for example, user needs, stakeholder satisfaction. I mean, you can measure all this, right? And or past similar project with cost overruns, we can collect this data. We have this available. We have access to this, direct access, and we can collect this either with real numbers, right, or quantitative information, or through focus groups and this kind of things, right? But the thing is, you have to understand what to look for, and is actually data the proper response to this, right? Collect data, or even AI, or none of this, and it's just like to put people into the room and sort things out, right? So these kind of things play a role here. I would like to talk a little bit more about this, but conscious of time, obviously. But the point is really like, make sure that you have the proper problem, that you have a focus there, that you know exactly what the root cause is, and then you kind of map this. What kind of data do we actually need to support us with a decision in this area? And then you may actually, as you go there, as you maybe go through a focus group or run some surveys, you may experience new insights, or you get new insights which maybe open up new data sources, right? And that's where this whole iterative nature, which is also part of a design thinking approach, comes into the picture. In data mining, things that looks like this, or that's also something that's heavily used in data science. so this is just like to conceptually highlight this, right? You get a business understanding, then you understand where the data is coming from, and then you actually work on where you get the data from, and then you evaluate this with the business understanding, and you run this in iterations until you actually get a proper picture on what a solution could be. And that not necessarily is with AI. It could be, but not necessarily, right? But the thing is to start with a problem. I think that's the key message that I want to bring across here. So what has that all to do with AI success or lifting or improving AI models and so forth, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I'm not saying like we should abandon all the AI talk and or you should abandon the use of ChatGPT, and I'm sure many of you are using this, right? Now, I mean, this is all good stuff, right? But we just have to focus on or make sure that we understand where are the limitations of all our areas that we can use, or capabilities and possibilities that we can use for project management. Data, AI, analytics, our own sense making, right? Our own experience. We have to understand all of these areas inside out to make really the proper decisions, which solutions we want to take, right? So how can this help with AI success and project management? I mean, first of all, with data thinking, right, we have a more targeted problem identification, so to say. So we are framing the problem. And by doing this, we are identifying clearly the root cause of a project issue, right? For example, what I mentioned, like, you know, we have these uncertainty problems, right? Or estimation problems, right? And obviously you can narrow this way further down, depending on the nature of a particular project. And then we can leverage AI tools way more effectively, right, to address those specific challenges. Because otherwise we just use AI, you know, in a general sense, right, for broad, undefined purposes, so to say, right? So you need to more focus, and that, I mean, maybe Gen AI would be a good solution for a particular problem. Then it will help you to really tailor to an approach where you have the perfect prompt to help you with, right, so to say. But not necessarily Gen AI is actually suitable for everything again. Then, you know, we have more informed AI application, because AI will just benefit from this, because we have more specific questions that we're asking, which means we're exploring also more our whole data landscape. We're bringing forward more data which may be hidden before, because we just assume that's not really relevant. But once we actually take this approach where we focus on a problem, then look for data, we make that actually available also to AI tools. And AI tools, as we know, it's actually learning from data and from the insights that we help also to generate. And data, I just mentioned this, right? Data sources, that we make sure that we have the relevant data sources, and we bring way more data sources actually to surface. And last but not least, and I want to mention this again, right? Generative AI is this part of AI, right? It's a very small snippet. It's useful for many areas, also in project management, but there's way more. So we need to have this knowledge and awareness of the broader landscape. And by working this or focusing more on data and these capabilities or these possibilities with data literacy, data thinking, etc., we actually enhance predictive capabilities from AI tools. And then it will be way more useful, obviously not from one day to another, but I mean, gradually, right, to solve our burning issues in project management. And this will be then also helpful to run this in iterations, as I mentioned before, and make sure that we improve, continuously improve. So in terms of the next steps, right, And I like this image here because it really tells me like, okay, we actually came a long way because we are working with AI, we are engaging with AI, we work on this, but there's more in store, right? We have to actually take the next step further, right? So the next step is really kind of to practice data thinking, right? So before you open Gen AI or ChatGPT with anything that comes to mind, and I mean, obviously in the whole context of project management, define the problem clearly, right? Ask specific questions, right? To guide really how the data collection process should look like. And when I say data collection, that could be really to go into AI and ask for certain information and data, right? But maybe the data is already present elsewhere, maybe even in our heads, right? So maybe just the person next to you maybe has that already, right? It depends all on really narrowing this down on the particular problem that we're really trying to solve. Not what Gen AI is telling us it can help us with, but we are telling Gen AI we have this problem and we need help here. But we need to know if Gen AI is even capable of doing this. And that's where we need to, invest in data literacy skills, AI literacy skills. So I would highly recommend to actually go that route and get more engaged with data. That's basically what I want to close with. But if you're really interested in doing this, I'm actually running a Projects and Data Academy and the Data Foundations Bootcamp. And here's some special discount that I have set up, which is a course or bootcamp that next is starting in September. So there's a URL if that is of interest to you. If you want to know more, there's a link. If you want to know even more than that, then feel free to contact me. I'm available. Here's some contact information and the QR code for my LinkedIn profile, if that's of interest to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for that enlightening session. So we now move on to the Q&A segment. So due to the time limitation, we can take 2 or 3 questions max. So anyone from the audience have any questions, you can ask now.
Hi, Marcus. No question, but just a thought. Thank you so much for your session. This is Joe here. I think
Yeah.
you've given us a lot of thought right now in terms of, because it's, like you rightly said, everybody's going after AI and technology and everything. So, are we missing the picture here? We're missing the big picture. I think that's a really good food for thought. So thank you so much for that. Getting us thinking on that. So thank you.
Thank you. The data ecosystem figure.
Yeah, I'm Rajesh. I made the query. Remember the earlier slide you presented. So is there any particular standard which you followed, or?
There's a standard in terms of, there's one from, I'm not sure which exactly you're referring to right now. When it comes to the data ecosystem, that's something that I created. That's for me, but it's obviously influenced by several standards, including one standard that I've shown, which is from the data mining part, which is this iterative approach, right? Which is certainly a standard. And this whole approach about data thinking in general, it's also something which is well established, as I said before, in the data science domain. But I think there are several areas that we can learn from and map this to the project management space, right? So some things are highly technical. We just have to kind of make them or simplify them and map them to our
Yeah.
challenges and our needs, right? And that's where it can become very useful.
Yeah, thank you. It was very informative slide. It's an excellent presentation. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
I believe there are no more questions. So thank you, Marcus, for answering all the questions and for sharing your valuable insights with us today. Your expertise in integrating data thinking with AI to enhance project management has provided us with a new perspective and practical strategies that we can apply in our projects. So let's all give Marcus a virtual round of applause. And before concluding the session, I would like to inform all the attendees that our next pre-conference knowledge series of Waves 2024 is happening on 6 July 2024. I hope everyone received the communication through WhatsApp. Please register for it. And thank you all for participating and making this session interactive and engaging. Before we conclude, please note down the video code, which will be displayed in the screen. And we hope you enjoyed the session and found it valuable. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
The PDU code is in the chat. Make sure you note down it. Thank you.
Marcus, is it possible to share the PPT with us so we can send it out to the registered participants?
Yes, I can do that. I will send it to you afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. It's a working day. Still, we got a lot of participants and it was a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.